What's up, guys? Intellitech Studios here, and welcome to episode 52 of Vacuum Saved. We have a good amount of machines, and I just realized I forgot one, but that's okay, I presume. I forgot a Bissell PowerForce Helix, but I already did a video on it, so that's fine. So, we've got a good amount of machines here, including some that are pretty interesting. Kind of dominated by Dysons unintentionally, but yeah, it happens. So, we'll start off with this Eureka ESP, self-propelled, which for most people probably the most interesting one. A lot of people like these older Eurekas. I know for a fact right off the bat that I'm not going to keep this because I don't enjoy self-propelled machines. So unless I use it just now and I absolutely fall in love with it, this will be for sale at some point. So that is that. So we'll check it out real quick and see. I do have a other Eureka F&G right now. Actually, I either have one or two. I think I have two right now. And this one does have a bag in it. Style F&G. Okay, that's good. That's what it's supposed to have. We'll stay into the bottom, but nothing too crazy. And yeah, so this is a self-propelled model. I got this from a thrift store for, I think I covered up the, $13. So we will see how well this works. I'll lower this down so we can see the bottom of it. Belt does appear to exist, although it's, as you'd expect, is rather loose. Brush roll's in excellent shape. So I'm debating on stealing the brush roll out of this for my other F&G. Hi, Rocco. And we can see the Eureka sticker right there. Model 5071F. Eureka Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Type in serial 388-36828. You got some wheels on the bottom. It's in solid condition. It doesn't really seem like it was all that abused or anything. Obviously, the top of this is in great shape, other than, of course, the metal getting scraped on furniture and whatnot. That's pretty typical with any machine. Cord's in good shape. We've got a switch to switch between normal and ESP. And up here, we've got the manual and self-propelled option. Of course, I put it on manual. Of course, this thing is way heavier than normal F&Gs are because of that self-propel, which I don't like. And this is a more premium model, so we actually do have a swiveling core hook, which was not a standard feature on Eurekas for quite a while. So, we'll plug this in and see if it runs. Alright, now it's got ESP and normal. It'll focus. Or Power Plus. I assume this is separate from the height adjustment, so we'll put it on normal. Ooh. I think that fan's busted. Can't think of any other reason why it'd be that loud and rattly. Yeah, that fan's trash. From what I can tell, at least. Obviously, I haven't opened it up yet. But, yeah, so unfortunately, that doesn't run well at all. So it needs a new fan. I guess the question is do I want to go through the effort of putting a fan on it? No, the answer is no, I don't want to, but I'm sure someone would appreciate it if I did. So we'll pop off this base plate. I don't like all this metal. It's really sharp. Oh. There we go. Of course, a lot of rust on the base plate. And that belt is bad. I don't know if there's an easy way to tell if the fan is chewed up or not. Looks like it's missing a blade to me. Yeah, it looks like there's a blade missing. So that could be the issue. So definitely needs a new fan. I mean, it is an F&G, so I would bet you can still get fans for these, considering they still sell F&G sanitaires, and I believe the fan would be the same, even though it's a self-propelled model, because that part looks the same. So this is definitely fixable. Do I want to do it? I mean, might as well. I've never fixed one of these before, outside of just belt and brush roll. So I probably have to learn how to pop this top cover off because I'm not as familiar with these machines. It's just something I had never worked on before. Prior to me getting the F&Gs that I've got recently. So, because I had never actually seen one in the wild that someone actually like brought in or anything like that. So yeah, pop that on. So it definitely needs some work, but you know, I think we can save it, which is the point of the show after all. So that will get its own video at a later date once I figure out how to take this top cover off and buy a fan for it. And I guess we could also do an honorable mention of 2 carpet cleaners, but this is not carpet cleaner saved, this is vacuum saved. So we've got a little Hoover Power Scrub Deluxe and a Bissell that belongs to my friend, but I need to look into those at some point. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of vacuums at least. Now we've got a couple little stick vacs over here, we can always get those out of the way. Alright, so now we've got this Dirt Devil Versa Power. Hi, Rocco. So we're going to turn this on. And nothing. This is the second time in a row I've gotten scammed by Goodwill. Because I get it, it's a donation, but it's like you can't make sure the thing turns on. Like, I get it, you don't want to test it thoroughly, but I would think at a bare minimum, if you're going to sell something, it would turn on. Especially if you're selling it for $7 when they're brand new for $20. So yeah. So that is junk. It fell. But next we've got a machine that I've been asked to try and review at some point in the past. This is the Bissell 3-in-1 Turbo. And so I'd always wanted to try one of these because of course the Bissell Featherweights are, you know, pretty popular, and I've reviewed the different versions of those a couple times. But this is essentially the one with the, oh, that cord is really short. This is essentially the one with a little mini power head. Now obviously this cord is ridiculously short considering this thing is like $35. But yeah, but I paid $8 for it, and I actually bought it from the thrift store that has been closed for over a month. So I've had this for a bit, but I've never turned it on until now. Oh, is it on? Oh yeah, it's on. That brush roll's weak. This thing's junk, but it does work. So for reference, I work at a store, but I don't work at a vacuum shop. I work in a resale shop. It sells like video games, electronics, and stuff like that. Some guy brought this in, and I was like, we don't buy vacuums. And he's like, but I heard that you buy vacuums. And I was like, I do, yeah. And he's like, so what would you give me for this? And I looked it over, and it does this. The pedal release doesn't work. It leans forward. The cord is split right there. And to top it off, it doesn't turn on. Okay, well that's interesting. Okay, well apparently it does turn on. Whenever I bought it, I had plugged it in, and it didn't turn on. So I guess now it works. And he said it needs a belt. Which I assume is the case, because this brush roll definitely doesn't have much resistance. But there is a belt there, but it's very loose, so it doesn't need a belt. He was right about that. But yeah, I thought this thing didn't run, honestly, and I was about to kick myself for paying $5 for it. But apparently it... Oh, it's squeaky, but apparently it does run. I've never seen this thing before. I have no idea what this is. It's obviously a Kenmore Progressive with a dent on the logo. This obviously opens in some fashion. I assume it, yeah, so it opens like that. There's no bag in it. There's no bag or pre-motor filter. Interesting. What does this filter look like? Trash, as you'd expect. See the wiring in there. Seems interesting. Okay, well, apparently this thing runs. Obviously, I'm not going to test suction or anything, so there's no bag in it, but it runs, apparently. I don't know if it's intermittent or if it just didn't want to turn on at that point. I was under the impression, because whenever I turned it on at the time and saw that it didn't run, I was like, well, here's your issue. Your cord's ripped out. But I also thought it was strange because I didn't see any copper, so I assumed it was just broke on the inside, but apparently not. So the pedal release is broken. So apparently this thing runs, which is not what I expected. I expected this thing to be dead. I did leave it outside for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe that fixed it. I don't understand how or why, but apparently it did. And I just stubbed my toe on the thing, because obviously the cleaning path is really wide. But yeah, pedal release is still broken. The guy who brought it in here tried to argue with me and say the parts are still available for these. And it's like, nope, they're not. Sears. And he's like, Sears Parts Direct. I'm like, they don't have parts for these. Sears is... Kenmore's an entirely different company now. They're owned by... Cleva. So... you're not going to find parts for these older ones. At least not the ones that they don't currently still sell under the Cleva name, like the Elites and that sort of stuff. But anyways, so on to the next one. It's got some other controls and stuff, but there's no bag in it. I don't feel like putting one in, so we'll mess with this later. This will get its own video, of course. Oh, jeez. Now, this vacuum belonged to one of my family members, my aunt specifically. And I mean, not my aunt, but my fiance's aunt. So... not really aunt-in-law, but whatever that term is. So, this belonged to her, you get the idea. And she needed it fixed. She said the machine was throwing belts. So she kept putting belts on it, and it kept throwing belts. So she had me fix it, and I did. I put a belt on it. She was just buying the wrong belts, that's all it was. And so I put the correct belt on it, which is the Style 160 belt. And it was fine. But I told my fiance to bring it back to her like a day later. Like, hey, it's done. You can bring it back to her. And he just never did. And I didn't remember I didn't remember where she lived, so I couldn't do it. And he just never brought it back. And then eventually she just gave up and bought a new machine. Even though I told her the night of that it was fixed. But, so yeah, it's mine now. I don't want it because it smells like cigarettes, but... it's mine now, apparently, because she had upgraded and got something else. Which is annoying, because I didn't want this, and it's kind of, like, a little annoying, because it's like, you know I sell vacuums. You know I would have given you a deal on one. You know I've been complaining about not selling any, and you bought a new one anyways. It's like, great. But yeah, so... nevertheless, this thing is functioning. It sat outside for a long time because I put it outside so that way Riley would remember and grab it on his way out and take it to her, and he just never did. So it sat out for like a month and change, so it's all dirty now, and it's been rained on a few times. It was at one point rebuilt, but we'll see how bad it sounds now. Now that it's probably all dried out, and it probably sounds like crap, so all that work was probably for nothing, but let's see. That's fine. Yeah, it works just fine. was kind of worried the bearings were going to like lock up on it and it was going to start sounding like crap, but it actually sounds just fine. Brush roll might rattle a touch, but I'm not sure if that's actually a brush roll rattle or if that's just the sound of the agitation. So, I mean, but for all intents and purposes, it's perfectly fine. I could easily wipe this down and sell it, but I want to soak the rest of it. I want to soak the hose and the cyclone and get the smell out of it first, which I previously didn't do just because, you know, she didn't need it. She just wanted it fixed. So, you know, I still washed the filter in it because it hadn't been washed, but I did replace the belt, clean the brush roll, and wash the filter in the dust cup. So, and of course, there's no attachments with it. So, but yeah, so I might sell it. Oh, I'm definitely gonna sell it. I don't want this thing, but yeah, it's just a matter of will someone actually buy it is the question. But I will sell it. So, because of course this is the machine that they sell on They've sold Black Friday the last couple of years for like $60. So it's kind of hard for people to justify spending $30 on one that's been rebuilt when they can spend double that and get a new one. I mean, it is what it is. You would think a 50% discount on something that's still in new condition would be good, but most people don't see it that way. So, but yeah, so that's fixed. I'm gonna clean this up and list it, but maybe I might just end up giving it to someone who needs a vacuum. Who knows? But yeah. Speaking of machines I somehow managed to buy because someone brought them into my work, was the Dyson DC14 all floors. Yes, I have 2 of these already, but this one is, well, another one. So, and this one's ever so slightly different. This one's a 2007 model, so it's between the age of the 05 and the 08 models that I have, but yeah, it's not in bad shape, but obviously it's needing of all the usual Dyson fixins. And also, this is really chewed up. Obviously, someone's dog got a hold of this piece. And I know this piece is replaceable, but trying to find that piece is annoying. I wonder if there's a way to, like, sand this down so that way it's not rough, so it's more smooth again. Hopefully there is. And the crevice tool is the same way, although I'm less worried about that because that's just the attachment. And that's the only tool it came with was the crevice tool, but if it was only going to come with one, I'm glad the crevice is the one it came with. That's the most important one. So, yeah. It's just basic DC14. Take a look at the filter. Obviously, I'm not going to take a look at the HEPA filter because I have to pull the tabs out. We'll take a look at this one. Oh my. Wow, that is... The filter is just dust. This filter is literally just dust. Wow, that's a first. And it's just leaking particulates. That's pretty crazy. That's definitely going to get thrown away. But is there any evidence of it in this top portion? I don't think so, so we should be good to run it briefly. Of course, there's some soil and stuff in here. That's actually my fault because I used it to vacuum the store, which has a lot of really, like, fine, like, soot-like dust. It's pretty hard on vacuums. But, yeah, so pull this down. Brush roll is missing a lot of bristles. The bristles are pretty worn down. So there's a couple spots where these bristles are borderline non-existent. So this brush roll is going to get replaced. Base plate's actually not in terrible shape. This one's locked up, this wheel. But yeah, so this corner wheel's locked up. But honestly, it's, you know, a new clutch belt, because I think the clutch itself does work. It's just the belt, or belts. Hopefully it's just the one belt, because the one belt is easy to change, but the second belt is not, so let's hope that it's just that. So we'll give this a run. So it does surprisingly okay considering how stretched that belt is, but which tells me that, you know, and obviously it's not great, but it's passable, I suppose. If you had like really low pile carpet, maybe you could get away with not changing that belt. But yeah, our filter is definitely going to get replaced. That clutch belt, at least the one going from the motor to the clutch. I think the one that goes to the brush roll, I think is okay. Because hopefully it is. Because if it's not, then that's a pain to rebuild. But the clutch itself does its job. So I have to rebuild that clutch. Have to replace both filters and the brush roll. Clean out the cyclones, of course. Replace the cord is okay, but I'll have to replace this piece or find a way to sand it down so that way it's not rough like this. Ideally, I just sand it down because it's all there. There actually isn't much of this part worn off, because a lot of times these will get worn down, but it's actually not. It's actually all there. So if I could just buff the rest of this so it's smooth again and save that, that'd be preferable. So if anyone knows a good way to do that, let me know. But yeah, so I paid $25 for this off of a friend, and we'll see if, because she brought it into the store. At first she was asking $75 for it, and I was like, I can't do that. I mean, I wouldn't even be able to sell it for $75, even if I turned around and flipped it with all the parts, because I had the purple one listed for a while, the 07, for $100, and it didn't sell. And that had more work, or that had very similar like resale value to this, because it's the animal, but it's the 07. So, but yeah, I don't know if this one is more popular to sell than the 07. I would think the 7s would be more popular, but who knows. But yeah, so I'll put some work into it and probably end up selling it. I could keep it, but I don't really need it. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Just a basic 14 all floors. We'd like to briefly interrupt this episode of Vacuum Save with a brief dog intermission. Dog intermission has completed. Alright, so here we've got a machine that costs, well, it cost me a bit too much, but nevertheless, I hadn't seen one of these actually in the wild in so long that, well, given that these are one of my favorite machines, I didn't really have a choice but to pick it up. Even though, again, $14. Now, this exact machine I have had before. I currently do own the slightly older, better model of this that has the headlights and the back check indicator, but still the same design. You know, it's still the same generation of unit. It's not the older 3522. So this one's the, is it the 3537, I think? Yeah, that's correct. 2008. And has 2 out of 3 attachments. I do have a spare black crevice tool. This would have came with the black long crevice tool. I actually am out of those somehow. I guess because I was selling a few Bissells and I included those with them at the time. You know, back when I sold all my bagless Bissels. So, but I do have one of the shorter ones as a bonus because I took it off of my Sanitaire and replaced it with a longer one. So I've got a shorter one I can add to this, but it has the other 2 attachments, the combo tool and the extension wand, which honestly, those are the 2 that I would want it to have because the crevice tools are easy to find and I have extras. Somehow they managed to pop, and I've seen this a lot with these Bissells. They somehow pop the lower hose out of its bracket assembly. I'm not sure how they did that. This thing's filthy, as you'd expect with one of these that's been abused. This thing has been ruthlessly abused. Whenever I first got this, I did a video on it, and you can see there is coarse debris in the motor housing. So all that there's hair in there that is blown out of the motor. So this thing is just a hazard. Just shooting projectiles everywhere. You can see all that. All that has fallen out of it. So this motor is very, very bad. I can only assume they probably ran it without a bag, because the bagless ones have gotten this bad before, but usually not. And it's weird because they have a genuine bag in here. At least I think this is genuine. Actually, it might be a great value. It's either a great value or a genuine. I want to say it's actually, it says, I see Bentonville, Arkansas, so it's great value. And it's got a pre-motor filter, but that's also filthy. Which, again, on my personal PowerForces, this filter has never gotten dirty. So, like, I don't know why people just... Because, like, these machines are easily capable of lasting 20 years if we take care of them. I know people argue with me, and it's really stupid because they're wrong. But these machines are very, very durable. The only exception being pedal release, which ironically on this one is good. So, and of course the brush roll bearings also like to fail on these. But this one is pretty okay, although that brush roll is disgusting. And the belt actually isn't too loose. But so I'm not sure if this brush roll is savable. Honestly, I can't even see the bristles, so I can't tell if this thing's worn down or not. But yeah, this thing's gonna get a whole amount of work done to it, because I do want to restore this thing, because I do like these. But this is about to spit out a bunch of dirt, so that wind down is pretty bad, but it actually sounds better than it did the last time I ran it, which actually gives me some hope. See how that motor wind down? It's pretty gnarly. But when it's running, it definitely could sound better. It definitely could sound worse. So I think if I strip this thing down and wash it out and clean it up, I think this could restore quite nicely. And this is a machine I would probably keep, but I need the money. And I know a lot of people, I know these are the only machines that I can still sell and get people to actually buy. So if someone offers me more than this machine's worth, which, because most people would argue these are worth like $5 or $10, but if someone can give me, a couple times that, I don't know, $45, $60, I don't know what I would sell this at, if I did sell it, because I really don't want to sell it, but I need the money, so I might sell it. Who knows? But we'll see. I'll clean it up first. Might replace the brush roll. This all needs washed. But yeah, so that's that. Bissell PowerForce. The last 12 amp iteration. So yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Looks like we got a little bit of chew on the core, but it's just the outer layer. The copper's still buried like it should be, at least. Other than that, it's good. So just needs some work. Probably needs a belt and a brush roll, and a set of filters, because with how much big debris is on those filters, I'm going to have to replace them. Trying to find this pre-motor filter is kind of a pain, but I could always get some generic filter material and cut it down to size, like some Miele stuff. And I know this filter, I have a bunch of these, so I'll upgrade this to a HEPA filter, because I have a bunch of HEPA filters. So, yeah, so that's going to get fixed up. And that's pretty much that. Next, we've got this Hoover, which was a curbside pickup, along with the Bissell PowerForce Helix, which is just a purple one. And, yeah, so that's it. I found it. It looks like this. It actually looked worse. It was covered in drywall dust, but I let it sit outside and it got rained on. So the screws that hold the base on are now a touch rusty. But other than that, it seems okay. It's missing the dusting brush, but it's got all the other tools. And I do have an extra dusting brush for it if need be. So we'll take a look at it and see. Look at the filter. This one's the twist-off kind. So I'll try to twist. Oh, God. Okay. Yep, drywall dust will do that. This poor thing has been through a lot. And that's drywall dust on the motor intake, which is never a good sign. I really don't want to run this in my house. There's even drywall dust on the inside of the cord rewind mechanism. But, yeah. Which really sucks. I actually like this machine because it's the T-Series, but it has this design like the Elite Rewind Plus that I like, and this is a much better dust cup handle design. But it's got the nicer handle and the multi-floor abilities. So, yeah. Look at the brush roll. Pretty typical. Pretty typical. Pretty typical, again, more dust there. Pretty typical early TTI. But yeah. This might blow dust everywhere. Well, oh, wow. It just barfed out a bunch of stuff. Is that sawdust? That is sawdust. That is sawdust. This thing just barfed sawdust onto my carpet. Let's see what this does. I've never heard a Hoover sound like this. Normally Bissells sound like this when the bearings go bad. And the filter's clogged. Yeah, this thing is not doing well. Well, we're gonna have to figure that out. Brush roll works, kind of. No suction really, because the filter's clogged. And the cyclone could be as well. What does the post filter look like on this? I mean, did I expect any different, really? I don't think so. Yeah. Not good. Not good at all. Definitely needs some work. I'm not sure if it's worth doing considering how bad the motor sounds, but it does still run. So, I mean, I suppose I could fix it and sell it at a reduced price to someone who doesn't care what it sounds like. Because it's not loud, it's just squealy because the bearing's being dry. Probably from all the dry sawdust. and drywall dust. So yeah, this thing is pretty grody sounding, but it'll at least work, kind of. Well, before we run these fancy Dysons, we gotta clean up this mess with the Recaro Superlight that is currently for sale. So if you want it, it is available. Beautiful. Now this Barney looking beast is not exactly a machine that you're ever gonna find here in the United States. This is a Dyson DC04. Yeah, not DC14, DC04. Look at that giant plug. And of course it's even bigger because I put a plug adapter on it. And no, before you guys freak out, this has had a US motor fitted to it, so it does have a 120 volt motor in it. That's why there's this plug adapter. Obviously, if they still have the 240 volt motor in it, a plug adapter like this would be strongly discouraged because the machine would run at half speed and potentially fry itself. So you would need a proper step-up transformer or step-down transformer. I can't remember which direction the reference is, but yes. So it does in fact have the original UK plug, which if I pop this adapter off, I can show you. And I did get this, there's a stain right there. So I did get this adapter at Walmart, thankfully. So you can plug it in right there, and then US plug right there, or anything else really. It's like, it goes a bunch of different ways. So, which is exactly what I needed. And then we got this giant thing, which as an American is kind of, I mean, it looks close to the 240 volt plugs we use for higher power appliances like clothes dryers, etc. But not exactly. This has a fuse built into it, and it's just a bit safer of a technology, which makes sense because it's more power. It's twice the voltage going through it. But of course you got plastic buffers and stuff to theoretically make it safer. Which is honestly a great idea. I don't know why we don't do that here. However, so some people have said these UK plugs are terrible to step on, and for some reason my brain decided to test that theory, so I dropped this on the floor just like that and stepped on it, and needless to say, I couldn't walk for a few minutes. So while this plug is, you know, it is dulled on the end. You can see it kind of tapers inwards on all the prongs. Just the amount, especially on the grounding prong, because that sticks out a bit more than the rest of it, is quite painful. So, at least from the sense of the pressure point. Obviously it's not sharp, but just from the uneven pressure, it hurts. So, as an American, I learned never to step on these plugs. Although I do kind of like the way they are. Just click right into the plug. Although, of course, I don't like this plug because the way it wraps up on this machine, it wraps up at the top, which means this giant weighty thing is just dangling and putting strain on this clip right here. Because for some reason they didn't put the clip on the plug itself, which would have made that a lot better. And then combined with this, which isn't designed to be on it obviously, but it adds even more weight. So what I've resorted to doing is when I'm not using this thing, I rubber band this entire contraption to the handle for some reinforcement. So yeah, but either way, so we've got the DC04, so we're going to plug this in now and run it. So first time you've ever seen a British machine on this channel, although I guess it is kind of cheating because I'm not using a transformer. It has a US DC07 motor in it, but nevertheless. All right. So the DC04 is now plugged in, and we'll go ahead and give it a run. And as you can tell, I have been using this machine. Oh god, that creaking really worries me. But I haven't checked the HEPA filter at all, but the pre-motor filter's in good shape. And I've used it, and I've filled it up a couple times, and it still looks like this. So, pretty good, pretty good. Of course, this is before the flap and everything, so it's just but this is full of a good amount of stuff, because I have vacuumed up a good amount of stuff with it. If we lay this down, we can see the very pretty color-matched green and purple brush roll, which has, albeit admittedly, very, very soft bristles. Very soft bristles. So it's not the best cleaner, of course, but it actually does surprisingly well, you know, in practice. It does have a much narrower gap, a narrower opening, which you'd think, you know, would better concentrate suction, and it does. So somehow this thing cleans better, at least from what I can tell, than our American machines. And I think a lot of that is because of the more efficient dual cyclonic design. It's much closer to the way a Phantom works, which makes sense because the Phantom's based on this. I mean, this essentially is the British version of a Phantom Cyclone XT, effectively, because it's the machine from the late 90s that's the full size that replaces the previous design that had less features and has brush control and an entire bin unit that comes off as one assembly. It can be separated to be emptied, and a longer hose. So yeah, and we'll give this a run. It does have an aftermarket set of tools on it, but the aftermarket crevice tool does fit better than like a DC07 crevice tool. So this originally came with green tools, and if someone knows where I can find the color match tools, because I want a green set, I want a red set for my DC07 low reach, and a turquoise set for my DC07 carpet. So that would be quite nice. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and give it a run. It actually manages to agitate okay. And it's not great agitation for it's an old Dyson, so you don't expect it to agitate at all. And it's actually not very loud. It's much quieter than the later DC07. So yeah, this is one of my favorite machines, the DC04 Absolute Plus. And from the same person that I got both these machines from, which is Vacuum Lover 1, I do also plan on soon acquiring a DC03, which I'll need to get a transformer for. And I originally was gonna get a DC04 Lime, but apparently that had actually gone brittle and broken in the time that he had it, so he's gonna try to repair it first before he sells it to me. So that's good. So yeah, again, just the hollowness of this cleaner head does give me a lot of pause, but I'm trying to be very careful with it. I don't think this one's gone brittle at all, although there is a crack right here, but it's not very noticeable. So I mean, it's, you'd be forgiven enough for not noticing it. Doesn't seem to affect it at all, so that's good. But yeah, so that's the DC04. And I mentioned that I rubber band the thing to the handle so it doesn't droop. And yeah, so that's what that looks like. But yeah, that's my DC04. Honestly, and I'm not just saying this just because of like the excitement of having a new old machine that I've never used before, but I think this is probably my favorite Dyson. Or one of my favorite, maybe it's not my favorite, it's one of my favorite Dysons, if not my favorite Dyson. because I legitimately like a lot of things about it that in my opinion are better than the DC07 and the DC14, and those are some of my favorite Dysons as well. So yeah, pretty good. So now I'll move on to the other British Dyson I have. This is the DC07 Origin. Although, since we did get a DC07 in the States, this was obviously much easier to convert over to a US machine. This one did have a US motor and a US cord installed, so this one's a lot easier of a transition, so to speak. So we'll check this out real quick. And here it is, the DC07 Origin for carpeted homes. I do also own the DC07 Carpet, which is the actual American version of this. And ironically, the colors are switched. So in the UK, the turquoise one was the one with brush control, and the yellow one was the standard that did not have brush control. Here in the States, it's the opposite. And they both have overlaps too. So in the States, the turquoise one is the only version that didn't have brush control, but that also later was replaced with a clutch unit. That's known as the DC07 Original, and the first one's known as DC07 Carpet. They look identical, the only difference is the clutch. And the all floors, which is what this looks very close to, but it had lighter colored plastic and more yellow parts in the States, and the clutch, that's the most common DC07 that you're going to see, hands down. It's the base model of the DC07. Here in the States, the HEPA filter and the clutch was a standard part, and every single Dyson was fitted with those, again with the only exception for the clutch being the DC07 Carpet. Whereas in the UK, they had more entry-level models that did not come with a HEPA filter. They had a standard pad filter that didn't seal correctly, and no clutch. So this is that entry-level machine. Although, unlike the entry-level DC07 here in the States, the way they cut cost on the DC07 Carpet, since it was sold for less than the MSRP of the DC07 All Floors, the way they got around the costs, in addition to removing the clutch, is on both the non-clutched carpet, or I should say, on the non-clutched carpet and the clutched original, they save money on those turquoise units here in the States by shortening the hose and shortening the cord. So you have a shorter hose and cord on those units. That's a fun little piece of trivia. I don't know why I mentioned that. This isn't a review, but just a fun little fact. But with that said, so just to point out, there are some differences. That being said, we'll give this a run. Funnily enough, I did register both these machines on my US Dyson account, and needless to say, the website accepted them, but did kind of freak out a bit, because it's obviously the wrong country. So that's the standard brush roll the DC07 Carpet comes with, or Origin, well both really. You can hear the brush roll is a lot more aggressive, and definitely cleans a lot better than the clutched models. So that's what I got right after the DC04, so it definitely cleans a lot better. And considering there was a time when both these machines were on the market, right next to each other on the shelf, and probably for a pretty close price too, this 07 would have been definitely the better option for keeping your carpets clean. So yeah, the final machine we have in this episode of Vacuum Saved is another Goodwill find. $8.99. This Dirt Devil Power Stick with Edge Wedge. So yeah, I don't know why I bought this. I guess it seemed interesting. I don't usually collect hard floor machines, but nevertheless, we'll check it out. This thing actually looks pretty clean, filter-wise, so it theoretically should do an okay job. It does have a hose that you can attach to the bottom, and it does have the crevice tool with it, although it is missing the 2-in-1 tool, which appears to be the same as a lot of Dirt Devil's machines at the time. So it should be easy enough to hopefully find a replacement. See if I can find any serial information on this. It appears that would be right here. D01A, so this is 2001. Glenville, Ohio. Model 083700. So, let's give this a run. Unfortunately, that motor sounds really bad, but it looks like it did get some of the dirt. Definitely needs some work for sure, but it does work, and it has a carrying handle built in, so that's good. So that's pretty much it. A nice amount of machines, and yet another vacuum saved. Can't go wrong with that. Anyways, this is Intellitech Studios signing out. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good one. Peace, and let me know what other videos you want to see in the description. Rocco. Oh, hi.